Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Ballad of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the latest issue of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer magazine. Now, as per usual with all these videos, if you like them, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course, drop me a comment down below. I love hearing back from you guys, it goes a massive way to helping out the channel too. Now, this week we are on issue 69 of good old Stormbringer magazine, and just don't make any puns about that number. Obviously, it is a scenery issue week this week. We get the domicile shell, so this is our second one. It's a pretty decent kit. It's pretty solid. It's got some nice chunky bits of plastic to it. I do kind of like this scenery. I think the scenery works very, very well and has quite a nice aesthetic to it. And obviously, it's part of all the Stormbringer Crusades and such like. Obviously, though, it's up to you if you like using it. And scenery can come in very, very handy when playing games. So yeah, obviously there are some fragile bits on it. You will get some mold lines. Just, trim them off before you paint it though, in all honesty. Pretty good stuff though. Going into this week's issue though, first off, we are greeted by Grimnir, the Doomseeker. Grimnir was the Fireslayer's god of war. He survived the destruction of the world that was, and awoke in Akshi during the Age of Myth. He found many Dwarden there, and Grimnir quickly became their patron god, teaching them the ways of war and forging them into the civilization now known as the Fireslayers. Catastrophe struck, and Grimnir, along with his brother Grungni, was imprisoned upon a mountaintop in Shamon. After many fruitless attempts to escape, their plight was discovered by Sigmar, the God King, who broke their chains with a mighty blow from his hammer, Galmaraz. In payment for this debt, Grimnir undertook to slay an ancient evil known as Volcatrix, the mother of salamanders, and the two met in mortal combat over the mountains of Akshi. So, a nice little bit of history and kind of lore about good old Grimnir. Grimnir obviously has a very, very famous kind of avatar in the world that was, and he's getting some stories in the Age of Sigmar as well, and that is good old Gotrek Gurnison. So Gotrek Gurnison eventually becomes imbued with a lot of the powers of good old Grimnir because of the axe that he carries, which is one of Grimnir's axes, and yeah, he evolves into becoming an avatar in a sense during the end times for good old Grimnir, which is pretty interesting information and pretty cool, including them to having an actual fight, which is pretty good. And typically the page rips, which is really, really annoying. I'm going to have to find the hole punch kind of protection things. That's annoying. Right, that happens every now and again. The holes aren't punched very well sometimes in this magazine. Anywho, Grungni is on the other page. So Grungni is the Great Maker. So Grungni is the smith god of the Dwarden, but in payment for his debt to Sigmar, who saved him, obviously, he utilised his skill to craft the Storm Vaults and to help create the Stormcast Eternals. However, during the Age of Chaos, he went into self-imposed exile, leaving his people to their fate, valuing their independence above all other concerns. So, when you see anything to do with Grungni, obviously you do find out that he's kind of helped create the Anvil of Apotheosis. He created the Stormcast Eternals with Sigmar. He forged a lot of their armour and taught them that way of kind of forging themselves and reforging their armour and such like. And yeah, it all went from there. Grungni is also the patron god of the good old Khadron Overlords, and he's more praised by the Khadron over good old Grimnir is. So yeah, because they utilise a lot of technology and building and stuff like that, and obviously Grungni is the maker, so yeah, pretty cool. Then you've got your build guide for the domicile shell. Obviously we've had this build guide before. It is fairly straightforward. You're probably not going to go wrong with it. I can't imagine you will, so just enjoy doing it, I suppose. That's the main thing. And obviously, if you're going to paint it, my personal opinion, don't brush paint it. It's a pain in the backside. Wait for some good warm weather around about a 20 degrees kind of temperature in the UK, especially, which is a bit harder than said than done at the moment, and spray paint it. So get yourself some Wraithbone or some ivory paint, or even white if you want to go white, or Sandry dust if you want to go for a darker dusky colour, or whatever you want to do, and spray paint your scenery. It's far easier, you get a better spread of paint, and you're not wasting loads of pots of paint. It's just the downside is spray paint can be quite expensive. However, you can get spray paint from places like B&M and Halfords and such like that will work just as well. It just depends on which colour you want. So, spend your money wisely. Anywho, that'll be my tip. Don't brush paint every part of it, especially for that base coat, because it'll be a pain in the backside. Obviously, there is little bits of detail on here, so you are going to want to brush paint it. You are going to want to put a shade over it, whether it's Agric Surf Shade, Null Oil, Seraphim Sepia. You could go different colours if you wanted to. You could go for greens, you could go for blues. It's entirely up to you. Paint it how you want. Have a bit of fun with it, and yeah. Otherwise, though, you do have a wooden section, so obviously browns do very, very well for wood. And yeah, you got these little metal segments as well, so you can do them how you want to do them as well. But, as I say, base coat it with spray paint. That is my main thing. Anywho, moving on. Obviously, once you've painted it all up, you're going to get something that looks pretty decent. If you're following the guide, you do get something that looks very, very similar to how GW like to paint it. It's entirely up to you how you want to go about doing it, though. You can paint it how you want. On the other bit, you've got information about how to paint crystal. Now, crystals you can paint in very much the same way. It does work very, very well. So, it's pretty good stuff. The way I would do about it, make sure you've got a glaze, because you do get them nice hues then, and you get difference in hues inside of your more blocky colours for a lot of them. And obviously utilising your edge highlights. Crystals will have a brighter edge highlight. It's up to you how you want to go about doing them, whether you're going to do orange, whether you're going to do blues, whether you want to do warpstone ready for good old the next edition, and you want to go greens. It's up to you. For things like your lava, that does work very, very well, but you want a bit more bright orange in there as well, because that'll give you a nice brighter lava-y kind of colour out of it. Tentacles, yeah. Generally, that is a pretty decent way of doing it. It's entirely up to you how you want to go about doing it. And things like your bones. The best kind of way I would do it is for any of your bones and such like that. Wraith bone, put over some skeleton horde contrast paint, and then dry brush Wraith bone back over to get all them edges. And it works very, very well. But yeah, it's up to you how you want to go about painting them. You can do a lot of this type of stuff. It's very, very straightforward, very, very easy. You're not going to have any problems, I'm absolutely sure of it. But when you're done, if you're following the guide, you're going to get something that looks like that, which is pretty good. It's not too bad. And but yeah, it's up to you how you want to go about doing it. You can change it up and go slightly different colours if you wanted to. But yeah, your choice. Moving on though, we have our battle guide for the week. Fairly straightforward. Obviously, you're utilising some pretty cool stuff. You've got your traits as well for Sylvaneth and the Loon Boss on Giant Cave Squig and Scragrot the Loon King. And then we have our battle plan. So our battle plan, Arcane Ruins. So obviously you're utilising the same kind of stuff. So we have 3 heroes, 5 troops. You're using quadrants, which is an interesting way of doing it, in one piece of scenery in the middle. So if you've not built this week's and you've already done the previous domicile shell, you can obviously slap that bang in the middle if you wish to, and have a bit of fun with it. Pretty good stuff, pretty interesting, and entirely up to you how you want to go about doing it. But yeah, it does work very, very well. Moving on after that though, we do have a pull-out section this week as well. So the armies of Gairan. So obviously the Sylvaneth being one of the most important armies of Gairan, as it's the realm of life, and the Sylvaneth are numerous there. Then you get information about the Stormcast Eternals, because there are Stormcast Eternals within the realm of life as well, and cities of Sigmar as well. So there are some cities, so things like Hammerhal Akshi and Hammerhal Gairan, Greywater Fastness, among a few others. And on the other side, obviously there is the Ideneth Deepkin, because they can kind of go everywhere, anywhere and everywhere, as long as there's an ocean or a deep body of water. But they are quite potent in Gairan. And then there is, of course, the Maggotkin of Nurgle, because he's obsessed with building his garden, and obviously the fertile plains of the realm of life is a pretty decent place to start for a fetid and yeah, disgusting green mass to try and kind of take over. In the middle bit though, obviously you do get your map, so you've Everspring Swathe, and you get some very important locations in Gairan as well. So Hal Gyro, the Living City, Greywater Fastness, and the Phoenicium are 4 of the major points, and they all kind of congregate there. And yeah, it's pretty good. It's an interesting way of doing it, and it's a nice way of doing it as well. So pretty good stuff there. That's it. So there's not anything else really to talk about this week. Obviously, next week we have Iron Skull's Boys. So more about Ironjaws. It's a warband, so they're pretty good. The week after, though, we issue 71. We get information about the Skaven, we get information about the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and we get paint. We get Colia Green Shade, which I do use, it's pretty decent. And we get Night Questor Flesh, also fairly decent. It's a bit of a kind of dark colour, so with, say, like your Catachan Brown, Catachan Flesh, works very, very well with that. The only other thing I want to mention this week is, obviously, if you haven't already seen it, the good old news, the good old Age of Sigmar 4th edition Skaventide box set, the beginning box set, is going to be available to pre-order on the 29th of June. It's a 2-week period between pre-order and, getting it. So it comes out on the 13th of July. Obviously, it's going to be very, very popular. If you're going to pre-order it directly from Games Workshop, in all honesty, expect to be in a queue first thing from 9 o'clock in the morning. I can imagine that queue is going to be horrendous, and it's going to be an hour, or more, like good old Warhammer the Old World was. The other thing I'll say about it is, if you pre-order from good old GW, don't expect it on launch day. The thing that I always find is it always turns up after. So, for instance, I pre-ordered good old Grombrindle on when that went live. It didn't arrive on launch day. It didn't arrive the day after. It didn't arrive a day after. I literally waited about a week for it to arrive, which is generally the way GW do things. When I pre-ordered my good old Tomb Kings of Khemri box set for a good old World, had to wait quite a while for that, to a point where even the store, my local store, had it in stock, and I hadn't received my pre-order, which seems really, really dumb. So if you want it, pre-order it on day, and you want to pre-order it through mail order, pre-order it with one of the third-party retailers. So whether it's Goblin Gaming, Wayland Games, or Element Games, someone like that, they will try to get it to you on launch. They may not succeed, but they will try to get it for you for launch. And yeah, sometimes they do it a bit cheaper. Just expect it to be a bit expensive, and yeah, good luck in getting it. That is the main thing. Anywho, I have rabbited on to you guys long enough. Get yourselves going, have a really good day, and I will see you sometime soon. Bye bye now.